everybody. Welcome to a very special Dream Planner tutorial. We're going to be going through the special section of our 2022 Dream Planner, all about personal growth. This page is tucked right behind the bucket list. So right after this page, you got your bucket list. The next page is all about creating your personal growth plan. If you've ever had one of our planners before, you're probably familiar with our wheel. And if you're not, welcome to the wheel. And this year we've actually revamped and expanded the wheel to include some training by the magnificent Chelsea Joe of chelseajoe.co. She's the host of the Systemize Your Life podcast. And her systems have changed my life. She directly serves stay-at-home moms, work-from-home moms, but her training and teaching works for everybody. And she had been using my planner in her academy, helping her students with time management. And I just fell in love with her trainings. If you came to the summit last year, you saw her teaching on time blocking. So we've incorporated some of her education into the planner this year and upgraded it, which I really feel like is the missing puzzle piece our planner was missing from dreams to scheduling your week. She was the missing piece that linked those two together so that we're not just creating a personal growth plan and then randomly flying by the seat of our pants creating our weekly schedules. So I'm so excited. This training is going to bless you so much. I'm going to welcome Chelsea to the tutorial. Hello.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here with my beautiful blush planner.
Yay! Yes, I've got the white marble here. This is the classic. Loving it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm really happy that we're going to dive into this. Like Polly said, this is kind of like my bread and butter. I do kind of zone in on work from home moms because they're incredibly busy people. And what I've come to find as I have explored teaching other people time management and using systems to be able to increase their productivity and really focus in on the core of who they are and learning how to prioritize that is that it really works for everybody, regardless if you're working from home, working outside of the home, if you're male, if you're female, if you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you don't have kids. This hands down can be applied to you no matter where you're at. And I'm really excited to dive into this and show you how me and Polly together can help guide you through actually making this something tangible and practical that you can do in your life.
woohoo! So turn to the page. I'm going to actually be going with you in this journey. I have my planner here, and I'm going to be going on my iPad. And so Chelsea will join me right over here. And we're going to get started. So the first thing when you look at your wheel is we're going to complete your wheel. And before there was only 6 sections of the wheel. This year there are 8. And so one that we've added for everybody is a section on dwelling. How's your home? How's your home doing? Which Chelsea has a whole section of her academy helping busy stay-at-home moms get their home organized and get their home in order so it can be a place of peace. And so that's an important part of it. It affects our mental health, our house, and how it's going. So that's another new slice of the pie this year. The other 2 are up to you. So if you are married, you will write marriage. You'll label one slice of your pie. If you are single, you'll just write relationship, and that's a space where you can, include your key relationships in your life. Just like last year, the title was relationally. So I'm going to write in marriage because I'm filling this one out for me. And then the other slice of the wheel is for you. It can be left blank if you don't have another section of your life that you want to add in. If you are a parent, go ahead and fill out the word motherhood or fatherhood if you are a dad. So I'm going to add mine here. They'll pop up in just a second. There's a little bit of a delay between my iPad and my computer, but this is for you to add in your slices. And once you have your slices labeled, We're going to assess how we're doing because that assessment is the first step to true transformation. You have to know where you're at if you want to set your GPS to tell you where you want to go. So we're going to look at how are you doing? How are you feeling in each area? And I love the way Chelsea actually changed this for me. Instead of just going like, how are you doing in it? It's how encouraged or discouraged do you feel? That is the scale. So spiritually, how discouraged or encouraged are you? If you're feeling super discouraged, just fill in that slice of the pie a little bit. If you're feeling encouraged, fill it in all the way. You want to add to that?
Yeah, so these are great questions to ask yourself. And oftentimes we kind of just like go off of this gut instinct, but you have to remember that what we're looking at here is who do we want to become, right? Who is this person at the end of the day? The way that I've always looked at it is at the end of the day you want to feel proud of yourself. You want to feel like you've accomplished something. You want to feel like what you're doing all day long is not just ending up putting you two steps behind. And for some of us, we might feel like we take one step forward and then end up two steps behind. And so it's super important that you look at these actual questions that are here and dive into what are your answers. Don't overthink them. But the question for financialists is when I interact with paying my bills, purchasing items, or conversations around money, I feel. Now think of a scale, right? And even just this piece of your pie here. If you're feeling really discouraged financially, you're going to color in just the very small tip of that. If you're feeling really encouraged, you might want to fill in almost all of it. If you're like me and you're like, there's always room for improvement, you might leave like a little teeny tiny sliver that's open at the top if you're super encouraged. Or if you're just feeling like what I always call as meh or indifferent, right? You don't really know precisely like, it's not bad, but it's not great. Maybe it's just somewhere that's mediocre and you would fill it in halfway. Ask yourself these questions. And I have a couple of these other questions that I use inside of my teaching for this, for every portion of this wheel. And one of the ones that we look at here for parenting, if you did put parenting in, a question that I like to ask is at the end of every day, if I look at the way I treated my children, I feel. I think that's such a powerful question because it really does come down to how we've interacted with our kids, whether or not we were frustrated or angry or resistant, or if we were super happy or overly passive, or if we were rocking it and we were intentional and we were gentle, but we shepherded at the same time and we had good boundaries in place, right? So ask yourself these questions for each of these areas. Really look at how you're feeling when you interact, just you and this specific segment of your pie. I'm going to leave you with one last question for one of these. And we're going to look at your spouse or your partner or relationally. Okay, so if you're married, and then we'll go to if you're not. If you're married, I want you to ask yourself, when I interact with my spouse, I regularly feel. And for some of us, like me, I go to this place all the time. But for some of you, you might not even want to interact with this question. And that's a really good indicator of where you're at on that. But if you're not married, I wish so badly that somebody a long time ago would have been like, hey, why don't you assess where you're at with yourself relationally as you're looking for a partner? Or maybe you're not looking for a partner, right? So ask yourself, whenever you're interacting with just you and the person that you want to become relationally, whether it be with your friends, with your family, when you're dating, when you're single, how are you presenting yourself and how does that feel relationally in the way that you interact with others? And that's, are you encouraged by your choices and your behaviors, or are you discouraged? Polly, how you doing?
I'm good. I've been filling out my wheel, as you can see. I decided to go with different colors. But yeah, that's my wheel. And if you attached this wheel to my car, it would be very bumpy. I think that's the big thing is, if you want to head towards your purpose, and you want to go after your dreams, if you have all these flat tires, we're not going to be able to, we're going to get down the road, but it's going to be bumpy and we're going to have to go slow. So that's why it's so important to pump up the areas that are lacking, and also to not beat yourself up that an area is lacking. Everybody has an area that's lacking. There will never be a season where everything is full. So don't be like, oh gosh, I'm failing. Like all my stuff is, down, because we're all there. I mean, this is why I'm doing this with you, to be fully transparent, because we all go through seasons, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, where things have fallen and we've dropped the ball in different areas of our life. So you're not alone.
Yeah, and I love this concept of like drifting, right? Because, and this is why this is so important to do before you actually get into the meat of planning out your quarter and your week and your day. Because inevitably, you are going to gravitate towards the areas that make you feel good, and you're going to be neglecting all of the areas that don't feel so great, right? And so that is the beauty of making sure that you do this assessment, because what it leads into is helping us prioritize these non-negotiable tasks or our fundamental needs that allow us to pour our time and our intention into even making sure that every single piece of this pie is even, right? So that we become more holistic, rounded, and just more balanced, I guess, in all of these areas, instead of just pouring into the places that make us feel good.
Yeah, like right now, my business is what I'm focused on, and I just bought my new home, and we're trying to get it moved in, and I'm excited about it. So like this totally explains why my wheel looks like this right now. So that's okay. It's just a matter of being intentional that I need to focus on my spiritual growth, even though it's not urgent. It's so important. I need to focus on physical. I need to focus on my marriage. Have a date night tonight. So I know what I need, and it's okay that I'm lacking in an area, and I'm going to give myself grace for that, and make a change. So the next section that we're going to dive into, now that we've assessed, is this is a new page. Why? Which I love this. Why did you give yourself that rating, Polly? And whomever is watching, Sarah, Josephine, why did you give yourself that rating spiritually? Why did you give yourself that rating physically? And so I just started to fill this in a little bit, and I want you to take time right now. If you have not fully filled out the wheel yet and you've just been listening, go ahead and pause and go back and fill this in and color it all in. And then when you're ready, pop over here and we're going to start writing down why. Why is it so important to go through this, Chelsea?
Yeah, my mother often says I was born asking the question why.
How kids are.
Because it really is the key to finding answers. That's where you're going to get down into the depths of why are you lacking in those areas? What have you been doing? And why are you excelling in those areas? That is so important to know, because sometimes you can feel extremely discouraged in who you are becoming and feel like you are helpless. And the one thing that we never want to do is just throw our hands up in the air and say we have no control over this. Because the truth of the matter is that everything that you put your time and your intentions into dictates who you become. That's why this is all under the umbrella of who do I want to become. Now, asking yourself why is going to lead you to the exact answer of what you need to do to be able to make that pie whole in all of the areas. Okay. So if you look at, okay, why, Polly, I'll just ask you a couple questions as you're filling this in, and then you guys can ask yourself these same questions. Polly, why are you filling in your professional, like almost all the way to the top? What are you doing right now? What is causing you to feel so encouraged in that piece of your pie?
So that's where all my time is going. I just launched the planner. I'm focusing so much in that area. And I believe that's why it's excelling, because I'm putting a lot of my focus on it. And yeah, so I would say that's probably why I'm doing the best there. And I feel encouraged because my time is being rewarded with traction. I'm seeing the traction, I'm seeing the fruit of that focus.
Yeah, and that was the word I was going to use, is definitely fruits, right? And so when we want to bear these fruits in every area of our life, that's what ends up making us feel like, when we put our head down on the pillow at the end of the night, that we have lived a day that was worth something, and that everyone wants to have a sense of worth. And we never want to feel lacking when it comes to any one of these areas. And maybe you might be really good at neglecting a certain area, and you're okay with that. But truly, when you meet yourself in quiet spaces of the day, you will hear whispers about those areas that are lacking. Whether it be, if I think, Polly, on your wheel, you said that you may be lacking in the physical space.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe these whispers that people hear, we're going to use Polly as an example, might not be like, oh my gosh, physically you're so terrible. It might just be, oh, I've got like aches and pains in my back. And that might be the communication that you hear that tells you that you're lacking. Maybe financially, your family specifically, not you, Polly, but for you that are watching, like, it might be financially you feel just fine and you're paying your bills, and that's really great. But maybe your partner or your spouse is like really, really wanting to save money and bolster that savings account. And so you're hearing that voice at the end of the day about your spending habits. And so you also can sit down and look at how does this work, not only in just me, right, and my own choices, but I try and look at it as, why, when I answer the question as to why do I feel this way in my motherhood, sometimes it's because I notice that my choices in motherhood, or my choices in marriage, or my choices in my home are affecting the way other people feel, and how my choices are um, influencing them. And so write that down underneath your why as well. And then when we turn to the next page, we'll be able to put that together. Polly, if you want to turn there.
Yes. So here we are. Let's get encouraged.
Yeah.
Dun,
So
dun.
again, you can pause this, fill all your whys out, and make sure that you put down your whys for the areas that you're doing well in, that you're feeling encouraged as well as discouraged. So we're going to take those answers, and at the very top here, it says to use your why from those answers to guide you towards finding action. So actual tasks, right? We're going to pull out at least one. You're going to brainstorm 3 if you can find them, if you can come up with 3 ideas, but we really are going to want one in every area that you think you could do to help pull you from being discouraged closer to encouraged. Now, if you are really doing super, super good in one area and you know what it is, like Polly said, she's been putting a lot of time into her profession, and you want to leave it there, then just put down the task that you have been doing all along. There's no need to change it or recreate or come up with something new. Just leave the tasks that you've been doing well. You answered why you're doing well in that area, and just transfer it over. Say it is, I'm spending 20 hours a week on my business. That's doing really well for me, so I want to keep doing that. And you would put that down. And I do want you to be specific, right? An actual task that you can measure. You can tell, yes, I did that, and you check a box. It needs to be that specific. Let's look at what Polly's putting down. And spiritual was one area that you felt like you were lacking. So what did you come up with?
Worship music in the car, doing my daily soap study, and booking a call with Amy, my spiritual director.
Awesome. What about physical?
Physical, bar class, my podcast walks, because I'm pregnant, so I can't do anything crazy. I'm not CrossFit over here, okay? And then another thing I like to do is spinach bombs. I like to puree spinach leaves before they go bad and freeze them like little bath bombs. And then I just dump them into like sauce, like spaghetti sauce or anything. And it helps my kids eat spinach. My child, my one child, eats spinach and she can't pick it out.
I love that. These are all really great things.
Yeah.
You guys are going to want to fill out the rest of them. And I love how simple these are, Polly. And so I had briefly just mentioned that I only want you to pick one of your 3, but it's okay if you do more than one of these. And I'm going to kind of talk about how at the bottom of this, it says to go back through and circle your one action. You may be really partial to all of these, and that's okay. You can switch them up if you want, but circle the one out of each of these that you feel like, if I didn't do anything else on this list, if you could only do one, right? Not all three of them together, maybe all three of them together, if you did them every week, you'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. And maybe that might happen some weeks, but if only one of them happened on a weekly basis, okay, so really make sure that you're looking at this. If you could do this one activity every single week and only that one, what would you pick to really help you move that piece of your pie up even just a few little scribbles, right? So Polly has down daily soap for spiritual, and then your bar class.
Yeah, for marriage, I'm doing the marriage journal weekly. Like, I'd like to do a date night weekly, but I know at minimum I can do the journal with Luke, and that is such a great reset for our Sunday nights. For personal, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the 8 hours of sleep, because that's where we're at. Yeah.
And this really does need to be focused in on a weekly basis. So for me, whenever I put in my physical, I've got a lot of things that I want to do for myself in the physical realm. But if there could just be one thing, it's definitely working out. But for me, it's working out 3 times a week. So I would put times 3 next to that for me personally. Polly might just want, like, if I go to bar class this week, that is such a great week, and that's going to help me feel better. You're going to put down whatever number, something specific. We need to be able to quantify and really check a box that says, I did this, right? On every single one of these. A 2-hour cleaning session for dwelling. I love it.
I feel like professional, I don't even need to add anything because my list is so, like, I'm like, that's just a different, I don't know, because that one's, I already focused so much on it that, like, do you think
So
I should?
let's pull out what you are doing well, though. You said you're giving it sufficient time. So what I want you to look at is how many hours are you giving to your business in a week? And I want you to just transfer that over. So you would just put, continue showing up for my work block regularly, because that is leading you to success. That is the thing that you're doing. You don't, it's going to be like wearing an old hat, right? Like, you're not even going to have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. Some of these, for a lot of you, you're going to have to really get into the nitty gritty and think about how to make them work and actually put them into your planner, because it's not natural for you yet, but it will become that way.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna add meal planning to the financial too as like number 2, but I pretty much got my ones done at this point. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is what we would pull out, every single one of these that you've circled, and those would become your fundamental needs.
Woo! So once you circle your ones, this is your fundamental needs. This is your fundamental needs, which this is what we are going to put into our schedule to become who we're called to become, because it's these little bitty actions that add up to complete transformation. It's not about this, okay, sometimes we go on these diets. It's like, I've got to cut everything out, and we set ourselves up for failure. This is setting you up for success. And are you going to keep these 8 fundamental needs all year? No, they're going to change. And guess what? This section where we're looking at our fundamental needs is going to repeat 4 times this year. So every change of season, you're going to get to do this again and look at, okay, maybe I'm going to swap out something for my dwelling or my physical or my marriage or professional. And that's great because things are going to change. But this is going to be a really great foundation for creating a week that has these things in first before all the urgent stuff and the meetings.
Yeah. So on this very last page, it says declare. We want you to take those things that you circled and write them into the wheel. So label those 2 empty pieces of your pie, just like the same label that you put on the first one for whatever category you decided to put in there. And again, you don't have to fill out every single one of these. You do whatever fits your main pillars of who you are and where you're at in your life right now, and then fill in your fundamental needs. And Polly's like 100% like on the money with that. My fundamental needs are something I developed with my husband, and we share them together. They look a little bit differently. Obviously, he has his own personal one, and so do I. And he works on his own spiritual things, and so do I. But for the home, we figured out what we need to do together, and for financial, and so we kind of are on this flow with each other where every week we've called ours the Great Eight, because we have 8 fundamental needs that we put on the calendar. And that's just a fun little tidbit for those of you that watched all the way through to the end of this video. It's really fun to name your fundamental needs. So if you have 7 of them, you could call them like the significant 7. Somebody had the Fab 5 one time. And it just makes it kind of fun. And we have ours written all over the house. We put them in our planner every single week, and we put them in our Google Calendar, and we make sure that these are non-negotiable, that we actually do them every single week, week after week after week. And I do absolutely recommend that you go through and you assess them every quarter so that you adjust what your fundamental needs are as your seasons change in your personal life.
Yay. So if you want to take this a step further, Chelsea Joe has a secondary training coming right up for you to really create a schedule in your planner, whether it's horizontal or vertical, to implement these fundamental needs into your schedule so you actually have time to do it. Because you might be like, going, I can't fit this in a week. I have a crazy schedule. This is what she does. This is her thing, is creating a schedule where you are taking care of yourself, where you're able to pour from your cup and to be who you're called to be well. And so I'm really excited about that. And I also want to give you an opportunity to take this a step further in your dreams, in becoming whole. Below there is information on the dream crafting course, which Chelsea Joe jumps into that course with me and helps go through this in a little more detailed fashion, along with really cultivating the dream in your heart and mapping it out in dream planning. So if you're like, this is really great, I want to take this a step further, I want Polly to help me with my big dreams that I have in my life, or help me to dream again and pursue a life of wholeness, make sure you look below at the dream crafting course and see if that is something for you. And I also have all of Chelsea Joe's information below for you to connect with her, check out her website, check out her academy, check out her podcast. She's incredible. But be sure to watch the next workshop. There is a link below to the next workshop. And there's also the QR code right here in the planner that you're holding in your hands, where you can jump straight to that workshop and learn about time blocking, because that's really the next piece that's going to help you turn these great intentions into an actual life plan.
Yep, I'm looking forward to diving into that. So just make sure you guys click on that QR code there in your planner or the link below this video, and we're going to dive into how to actually make this happen in your life, which is the best part.
Thanks so much, Chelsea.
Thank you.